Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Today, we're looking at the European Rocketry Challenge.
EuRoC.
Yeah, EuRoC. You sent this in, and it looks really cool.
It is.
So, from what I gather, it's university students designing and building rockets.
Yeah, designing, building, launching.
Launching, with, like, missions and stuff.
Absolutely. Like hitting specific altitudes, they have to carry payloads.
Oh, wow.
They compete against.
So it's like a whole competition.
The best student teams in Europe.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we've got the European Rocketry Challenge Rules and Requirements document right here.
We do.
Which looks intense, I'm not going to lie.
It's a little dense.
It's a bit much. But thankfully, we have an expert to help us unpack it all.
I'm happy to help make sense of it. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's not just launching something that explodes.
No. These students are held to some incredibly high standards.
I bet.
With rules and regulations that, honestly, would probably make even, like, seasoned aerospace engineers sweat a little bit.
I can imagine. So where do we even begin with this?
Well, one thing that jumps out to me is there are 6 different flight categories.
6.
Which is a lot more than you might expect, right?
Yeah, that does seem like a lot. Why so many?
I think it's about finding a balance between, making it accessible.
Right.
But then also really pushing the boundaries of student engineering.
So you've got different levels, basically.
Exactly. So some categories, they're designated COTIS, and that means teams can use commercial off-the-shelf rocket engines.
Okay.
So think of it like a ready-made power source.
I see.
Makes it a bit easier for teams to get started, and they can really focus on other aspects of the design and engineering.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like a good starting point.
Exactly.
What about, like, for the teams that are maybe looking for a bigger challenge?
That's where the SROD categories come in.
Okay, SROD.
And that stands for Student Researched and Developed Engines.
Oh, wow.
So in those categories, students are designing.
They're making their own engines.
And in some cases, building their own propulsion systems from scratch.
Whoa.
Which is a whole other level,
A whole other beast.
Requires a whole other level of knowledge, skill.
I bet. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how do they even, designing and building your own rocket engine as a student?
It's a lot.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But it also seems like it could go wrong very easily.
Yeah. And to make sure that these student-built rockets are safe and reliable, they have a very rigorous technical review process.
Right.
Teams have to prove that their designs are sound, their documentation is thorough, and that they've met some very, very strict safety criteria.
I bet.
It's not just about building a rocket that can fly. It has to meet professional standards.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I did notice, speaking of flying, there's an impulse limit.
Yes.
So 40,960 Newton seconds.
That's right.
Can you break that down for me? What does that actually mean?
Sure.
And why that specific limit?
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's all about, it gets right to the heart of rocket science, which is, balancing power and control. 40,960 Newton seconds of impulse, which it's measuring how much thrust the rocket engine produces over a certain amount of time. It's a lot.
Okay.
Especially for a student-built rocket.
Yeah.
So that limit, it's there to make sure that the rockets are powerful enough.
To get to space.
Well, maybe not space, but to achieve those impressive altitudes, yeah.
Right.
Which we said, 3,000, maybe even 9,000 meters.
Yeah.
But we don't want them to be so powerful that they become
dangerous,
unsafe, or uncontrollable, right?
Yeah, so it's like finding that sweet spot between ambition and,
keeping it on the ground.
Not blowing up.
Well, not blowing up too early.
Right.
Or, veering off course.
Right, yeah.
And, the focus on safety, it's not just about how powerful the engine is, right?
Right.
Like the document you shared, it emphasizes safety precautions throughout the entire, every single stage of the competition, from the types of propellants they can use to very, very specific testing procedures, right?
Interesting.
They'd have to, prove that their rocket is safe to launch.
Yeah.
Not just for themselves, but for, everyone else.
For sure.
Who's involved.
Yeah, because these things, they're complicated.
Very much so.
Yeah, so speaking of complicated, another requirement that I thought was interesting was that they have to carry a payload.
Yes.
But not just any payload. It has to be a certain weight.
1 kilogram at least.
Right, kilogram at least.
At least.
And in a specific format, like a CanSat or a CubeSat.
Yeah, those are the most common ones.
So what's the logic behind that?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And this is something that I think is really cool about EuRoC.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about how it's not just about, you know, building rockets for the sake of building rockets, but actually it's about preparing them for the real world of like aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
So CanSats and CubeSats, those aren't just random sizes that they picked out of a hat. Those are actually standardized formats for miniature satellites.
Wow.
That are used in real space missions.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, so they're essentially building miniaturized versions of actual satellite payloads.
So they're getting a head start
Exactly.
on like building real satellites.
Precisely.
That's incredible.
It's really cool.
Wow.
It forces them to consider like the practical applications of what they're designing.
Right.
So imagine a team, they're designing a payload, and it's going to measure atmospheric conditions, or maybe it's going to test out a new sensor, something like that.
Yeah.
That data could be really valuable.
Oh, for sure.
Even if it's on a small scale.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
So it's like they're already contributing, even at the student level.
Exactly.
Like
real space exploration.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
It's really a cool way to blend the theoretical with the actual, like putting it into practice.
Yeah.
And you know what's even cooler?
What?
It opens the door for collaboration.
Oh, nice.
So you could have one team, and they're amazing at building rockets, right? That's their specialty.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe they're not as strong on the sensor technology or the data analysis, so they could partner up with another university.
To make like the best rocket.
That has it all. Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Wow, so it's more than just building a rocket.
It really is.
It's like the whole...
It's about fostering innovation. Yeah.
And collaboration.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really cool.
And this whole idea of collaboration, it's like really important in this field.
Okay.
And it's actually written into the rule. There's a whole rule about unsportsmanlike conduct.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Unsportsmanlike conduct with rockets.
Yeah, like...
What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, you've got these teams, and they're putting, like, their blood, sweat, and tears into these projects.
Yeah, for sure.
Countless hours.
Yeah.
Probably fueled by, like, way too much caffeine.
Probably.
So emotions, they're going to run high.
Right.
But, yeah, the rules...
Yeah.
They really stress that EuRoC, it's about, you know, it's about creating a space of respect and collaboration. So, you know.
It's bigger than just taking each other down.
Exactly.
It's about, you know, advancing
the whole field.
The whole field together.
And moving it forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of, like, moving the field forward.
Okay. There's one more thing in these rules I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
Because I thought it was interesting. It mentions that teams can submit these like optional appendices.
No.
Like detailed logical process diagrams.
What? I know, right?
That sounds intense.
Sounds very official.
It does.
So what is that all about?
Yeah, what makes these diagrams so like special?
Well,
is it like the rocket science version of getting extra credit for like using glitter pens or something?
Not quite, but I like the way you think.
Okay.
So think of it this way.
Okay.
These diagrams, they're like a window into how the team actually solves problems.
Oh, interesting.
You know, we've talked about how these rockets are
very complex.
Incredibly complex.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And all the different systems have to work together perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
So a good process diagram, it wouldn't just show like the steps they took. Right. It would show that they can think ahead, you know.
Okay.
Like anticipate challenges.
Right.
And come up with solutions like before things even go wrong.
So it's about like foresight and planning.
Exactly.
Not
just making it look pretty.
Right.
It's about demonstrating a deep, fundamental understanding of the engineering that goes into it.
Wow, that's cool.
So yeah, it's one thing to design a rocket that works, you know, on paper.
Right.
But it's a whole other thing to build something that can actually handle the real world.
Yeah, the G-forces and the
forces of launch and flight.
The vibrations and the heat and the...
Yeah, it's intense.
Wow, that's crazy.
So these diagrams, they let the teams show off all the work they've done.
You know, their planning, their testing, how they went back and like refine their designs.
Right, because it's not just you build it once and then you launch it. Right?
Oh, absolutely not.
There's so much iteration.
So much testing, it's a whole process.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool to think about, like, all the thought and detail that goes into this. You know, like it's not just
This is a huge undertaking.
from, like, I'm just thinking about it, like from the outside, right?
Yeah.
It's like you design the engine.
From scratch.
You have to, like, anticipate every possible thing that could go wrong.
Right.
Make sure it's safe, document everything.
Wild.
It's got to be, like, what?
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
I know. It's a lot. I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
It really is.
But it's also, I got to say, it's pretty inspiring.
It is really inspiring. It's really cool to see what these students are capable of.
It really is.
And EuRoC, it's like a perfect example of, like, what people can do when they're passionate and dedicated.
Yeah.
And they, like, know their stuff. Like, they clearly know their engineering.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes you really optimistic about the future of space exploration.
It is. It is. I feel like I want to go, like, dust off my old physics textbook now.
There you go.
Or maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe I'll just, you know, admire from afar.
Sometimes that's best.
Yeah, I think in this case it is best.
Yeah.
But this has been awesome.
It has been really interesting.
This deep dive into the European Rocketry Challenge has been fascinating.
A lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack. But hopefully this gave everyone, you know, listening, like a little taste.
A little glimpse.
Oh, goes into this.
A little window.
Yeah, a little window, exactly.
Into that world.
Into the world of rocket science.
Yeah.
And all the amazing stuff these students are doing.
And if you want to learn more,
Yeah,
there's a ton of information out there.
oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, just about everything.
About rocketry and space exploration and all that.
About the students, like all the cool projects that they're working on.
Yeah, it's amazing. So
It was really cool.
yeah, if you're interested in this, definitely
Go down that rabbit hole.
go down the rabbit hole for sure. Do some research. And yeah, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Absolutely. And until next time.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.